Welcome to Galveston Unscripted. They found a tombstone in my backyard before we bought the house, and I did not even know that until I walked in.
You never know what you're going to find out and learn about when you come to the museum.
Welcome to Galveston Unscripted. Galveston Island history is rich and full of interesting tidbits, but we cannot forget just beyond the bay, how the island has influenced the mainland and vice versa. Galveston County has been home to Native Americans who originally inhabited the Texas Gulf Coast, Spanish land grants, European settlements, and even military bases for almost 200 years. Around the same time Galveston was officially becoming a city, Galveston County was being formed and was officially organized in 1839. Small communities around Galveston Island grew at a rapid pace, along with Galveston's growth. The rapidly growing economy of Galveston Island didn't take long to reach the mainland. The island needed food from farms, as well as goods to ship overseas, and the small communities across Galveston Bay were happy to provide those essentials. Here on the island and throughout the county, there is so much history to explore. The Galveston County Museum has made it their mission to share these stories with you so that you can understand your community and help you play a part in shaping Galveston County in the future. I sit down with the director of the Galveston County Museum, Jody Wright Gidley. The Galveston County Museum is a wonderful resource. They provide a look back at Galveston Island and the surrounding communities. And just when you thought it couldn't get any better, the museum is 100% free. We discuss some of the fascinating exhibits and location of the museum. Without further ado, let's jump right into my conversation with Jody Wright Gidley, director of the Galveston County Museum. Go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do at the Galveston County Museum.
Well, I'm the director of the museum again. I was director of the museum back from about 2007 to 2011. I took some new opportunities, worked for a couple of different foundations, and decided to come back to the museum field, and I'm glad to be here.
So how did you end up in Galveston?
I was working at the Bell County Museum in Central Texas, and was ready to be the director of a museum instead of a curator, and came here, moved my family here to work for Galveston Historical Foundation. That was in 2007, and I was director of the Galveston County Museum, which at the time was managed by GHF.
Oh, so how did the county get involved?
The county has always funded the museum because it is the Galveston County Museum, started by Judge Holbrook back in the 70s. And so they had a management agreement with GHF to manage the museum. It changed after Hurricane Ike. Where
was the museum originally?
Right up the street in the old City National Bank building.
And that is a beautiful building there. And I am assuming Ike completely...
It flooded the bottom of the building. So HVAC, electrical systems made the building unusable. But our collections were okay. They were up high and dry. And so we moved them after Hurricane Ike. Our collection was moved to the Sherm Moody Plaza building, the Santa Fe building, and we were there for quite many years. And then we were given the opportunity to move to the courthouse. So we were always looking for a place to build new exhibit space. We were managing our museum artifact collection and our research library, but we really wanted exhibits for the public to see. And so the county commissioners worked with us, and we've got space at the courthouse. It's the old jury assembly room. If you ever went and had jury duty years ago, that's where you went, and that's now the museum. And we've had staff and volunteers over the years that did a great job of building it out into what you'll see today.
And one thing I noticed last time I went in there is that the house I live in now is in the museum, which is kind of weird. They found a tombstone in my backyard before we bought the house, and I did not even know that until I walked in.
You never know what you're going to find out and learn about when you come to the museum. The museum tells stories and shows artifacts about Galveston County history. And so one of the exhibits we have right now is about military history. Throughout the county, there have been forts on Galveston Island, on the mainland, and we tell that story about all of the different forts that were here. One of the most interesting ones that has had a lot of work done on it recently is Camp Wallace. Camp Wallace was a camp during World War II on the mainland near Santa Fe and Hitchcock. It housed German POWs. It was a huge camp, and it once had a bakery, a movie theater, a club, just all kind of things out there. And you can still see some of the foundations, and there are members of the Historical Commission and volunteers that have cleaned that out, added interpretive signage, so it's like a new site that everyone can go visit.
Is that near Jack Brooks Park?
Yeah, it is in Jack Brooks Park.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Other exhibits we have are, of course, 1900 Storm. A lot of people that visit the island want to learn about that. And we have artifacts that tell that story. We also have exhibits on corner stores. You know, it used to be the way everybody shopped around here. And so a lot of people really enjoy seeing those because they recognize these stores they shopped in as kids. We also have exhibits on historical photographers, architecture, immigration, and Mardi Gras. And we do change exhibits often. And so if you visited a few months ago and you come back in the fall, you may see something different.
You guys have a ton of Nicholas Clayton's blueprints.
We have some blueprints, some drawings, a blueprint typewriter that he used. We do have some really interesting things related to him. What's
your favorite exhibit you have right now?
I would say my favorite exhibit is the 1900 Storm because we've added some things from the time when I was director before. We've added new items to our collection and we feature those in that exhibit. And it's the coroner's book from Bolivar. And it tells the stories of people that died during the storm. It's just very interesting.
And I understand you guys have tons and tons of artifacts that aren't on display yet, but could be in the future?
Right. You see about 30% of our collection exhibited in the exhibit hall now. And we have exhibit planned for the future to change them out. And we have storage upstairs where all of our artifacts are held.
What artifacts do you guys have hidden back there?
It is a wide variety of photos and archival materials and artifacts. We have shelf after shelf, boxes of just about anything you could imagine. We collect anything that has to do with Galveston County history. And on a monthly basis, somebody comes into the museum and says, I have something, I don't know what to do with it. Is it something the museum would want? And usually the answer is yes, because if it tells any aspect of Galveston County history, we're interested in having it.
So as you know, Galveston Unscripted is pretty much focused on the island, but Galveston County is gigantic. What are some of your favorite historical facts off of Galveston Island?
I really enjoy learning about the connections because there are Galveston businessmen here working, but they expanded on to the mainland and other parts of Texas. That's why we have Rosenberg, Texas. That's why we have Hitchcock and Santa Fe. All of those places were connected to the Galveston story. And there were, you couldn't have had Galveston's growth without the mainland supporting it because from Santa Fe, you got food down to Galveston to help feed everybody and the dairies and the food and even the water source.
I know the museum hosts events and workshops. Are there any future plans?
So we are working to have small events in our museum. We don't have space to have large events, but we want to have some. And so we recently did a photo restoration workshop. We had Robert Mahovel, a very well-known local photographer, come, and it was a well-attended workshop, very small, but it was very personal, and everyone enjoyed talking with him about photo restoration. We want to do an event like that again. But also coming up, we're going to have an event with James Anderson, who wrote the book Galveston Burning. He's going to do a book signing, and we're going to bring out some of our artifacts from our collection that relate to the fire departments in Galveston. We have a few really interesting things. So we're going to bring those out, and he'll be there July 21st from 2 to 4.
My last interview was Ed Cottam, and I asked him a question. It was at the very end of the interview, and I was like, I need to ask every guest this, just because I think it's important for why I'm doing this in the first place. Why is history important?
I've always been interested in history. My parents always took us on vacations where we learned about history, so I could say it started there. But over the years, working in the museum field, it's important because it's a part of the human history and our story. And I think it's human nature to want to tell those stories and preserve that story for humankind. And it's important to know why things happen. That matters when you're talking about what's going on now.
Jody, could you tell us one more time where the Galveston County Museum is located?
So we are located in the county courthouse on Moody. The address is 722 Moody, which is also 21st Street, and we're inside the courthouse.
Thank you so much for joining us on Galveston Unscripted. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. And don't forget to follow us on social media. We are literally everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And don't forget to reach out and let us know what you want to hear. I've gotten amazing feedback from the community so far. We've got some amazing interviews and great episodes coming up in the near future. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll see you next time on Galveston Unscripted.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
I don't like hearing myself.
You don't?
No.
But you sound great.
Okay.
For historic resources or more information, check out the episode description.